Okay, so it's actually really appropriate that I am doing this session today. And my good friend Tara, who I was best friends with when I was a little girl, I call her my first best friend. Only had two. So
Aw.
Tara and then Tammy. But Tara, the other thing about Tara is, and I showed you this that at the end of the last session, I showed you that really weird tool with the big nail in it. Her dad is Bruce Head, who was my mentor. So it's kind of cool that she's chiming in today, because the reason I make all these tools is probably also because of Bruce, because, and Tara and I were talking earlier and she said, yeah, nothing goes in the garbage without him going, that's interesting. Well, I'm sure I say the same thing every time I see something going into the garbage. I'm like, can I?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I do. Anyway, the other thing that's really funny I want to tell you, because Bill was very adamant that I don't get spray paint on his computer. And last week I was spray painting. I was trying to be very careful, but he came down and showed me his keypad had kind of like orange haze on it. I felt horrible because even though I'm very careful with, especially when you're using like an aerosol spray paint, if I'm using it here, it floats. Yeah. And that's why you got to wear the respirator and stuff like that too. So anyway, so today I'm going to talk about, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of my weird tools and how I started with these things, some of the handles I use. Then I also want to talk about the pieces that we were working on in the last few weeks. And I want to talk a little bit more like focus and stuff like that. Spencer, you sent me your pieces so that I could do a crit. And I'm sorry I didn't see them until when I finally answered you. I'm horrible with my email. It's the last thing I want to look at. That and accounting.
Well, thank you for looking at them at all. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's great. So, and I think that's actually a really great thing. If you guys have a piece that you're struggling with, or you want me to do a crit on it, send me an email. I won't be immediately getting back to you.
Facebook Messenger, and I'll see it for you.
Yeah, if you send it on Facebook, Bill will see it because he sort of manages that for me. But anyway, if you do want me to do sort of like a crit on something that you're working on and you need some ideas, then you're welcome to send them to me, and I'll give you my best little bits.
Hey Karen, what's a crit?
Oh, it's a critique. So that's me looking at what you're doing and giving you some advice about it.
Well, thanks. I'm not an artist, so I didn't know.
Oh yeah, you're so funny. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about that and a little bit about, some of the things that I was talking about, as far as focal point and focus and adding the pieces onto your work. Okay. But I think we'll start with the tools because they're kind of fun and they're right in front of me here. So I'm going to let you switch. Yeah, switch the view. By the way, I was spray painting and I used one of my snowflakes because I talked about it. And now that I've got some spray paint on there, it's a little bit more solid than it was. So it's kind of nice. It's one of those snowflakes that isn't quite six-sided. I don't know what I did to it, but it's kind of weird. But now it's a nice little stencil that I can use on my art. I don't know if he's got can you guys see my hands yet?
Yep.
I don't know. I can't see my hands because he's doing something. But anyway, so this is kind of a nice little snowflake that I just sprayed some blue through it onto one of my pieces. And you know what? Eventually it's going to be really beautiful and it might actually just end up in a piece of artwork, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, this is turning up this piece of origami paper. So it's getting quite nice and stiff because of the paint that I've put on it. So all right, I'm going to move this big box here because that's for a bit later. So I'm going to show you some of my tools. Yay!
It's backwards.
It is backwards. How come it's backwards?
I have the camera backwards.
Why do you have the camera backwards? You're
I wasn't
so weird.
paying attention.
Backward Tuesday.
I don't know. Is this weird to see it upside down, guys? It's kind of weird, isn't it?
I can see it.
You can see it okay?
Like an aerial view.
It is an aerial view, but okay, he's going to turn it. Oh, it feels so much better.
Looks like we're holding it. I get it.
Okay. There we go. All right. So I wanted to show you some of the paintbrushes I made. Sometimes it's nice to have a paintbrush that has like a really long handle. So this is just a stick off a tree of mine. And this is Caitlin's hair.
Fun.
It just seems such a shame to throw it away when it could be a really cool brush. So I have her hair, and then I have some of my hair, and maybe it's Sydney's hair. I don't know. It could be. Anyway, I have a few brushes that I made out of that. I just, brushes like this, you have no control over what they're going to do. In fact, they probably will leave hairs along in your paint and stuff like that. But, that's part of the whole thing of being experimenting and stuff like that. I made probably, I don't know,
Okay.
there's about 15 of them, and they're super long that I made for my students. They're probably 2-3 feet long, the handles, and then they've got my hair at the end. So sometimes in my classes, I would get the kids to paint with them, and they just make such a mess, but they were so awesome because they just couldn't, here it comes. Here it comes.
Oh.
Oh, boing.
Yeah.
And look at the hair on the end of this. It's like, oh, sorry. You can't control what it does. It's just, it's got a curl in it, and it's like, sometimes you get it wet and it just goes. So
I hear you.
anyway,
Do you
they're kinda
find
fun.
it best to stand when you're using that one, Karen?
Yeah, I get the kids to, like, I'll put like a big pot of sort of really wet black in the middle, and then they have
Mhm.
paper all the way around, and they just flip it and all that kind of stuff. Kind of fun. Now I made this one. This is made out of twigs, and I'm not sure how well it would work. I haven't used it yet. But anyway, it's kind of fun to make them.
Yeah.
So, all right. Tools. Nothing goes in the garbage without me having a look at it and seeing what's going to happen.
And then it still doesn't.
And then sometimes, hey, I threw out a lot. Okay. I purged my whole studio and I threw out lots of
Do you sometimes make purchases based on seeing something that would be good? Like containers, for example? Sometimes I found that that's what my dad would do. He would buy things like, I think there was a potato chip container that had a certain shape and it was plastic. So
I'm pretty frugal, so I don't buy things unless I can get multi-use out of them.
that's what he,
So-
yeah, that's what I mean. So he would see a
Like chocolates.
container and he'd like it.
Yeah, like if it's a container that has chocolate in it,
Yeah. Oh, with chocolate perhaps.
I'm all in.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely suffer from the same beauty as he did artistically.
That's right. So now this was, I of course I didn't buy these chocolates. Somebody gave them to me, but I was like, wow. So I think Jody's used this one in my studio. Jody and I used it. But sometimes when you're doing things like this, you can put the paint on there and stamp it,
Mhm.
or you can just put the paint on your canvas and then stamp it, and this pulls the paint off. So if you have a layer underneath there, it kind of can do things like that. So yeah, I haven't
used that one yet, Karen, but I will when I come next.
You have
Yeah.
used, I'm sure you used it when you were here. I'm sure you did. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. Anyway, so this is just it's probably a handle from a shovel, a wooden handle.
Mhm.
And then I've wrapped it with string. And so I can roll across again. And it might be one of those things that I put the paint down first and then I roll this across and leave an impression in that paint or an impression in the gesso or something like that. Okay. This is just a block, but I've been adding little bits to it to create some stamps. And we're going to make stamps with this stuff later someday. Okay. I have these ones in my hand in my picture. This is one of those horrible paper straws that you can get now. I don't like them as straws, but they make a nice little circle on my work. This is probably my most common tool that I use for making dots. And it is a sucker stick. It's like plastic with an ear plug in there. I know it's the weirdest thing, but it's my best tool ever. There, if I pick the paint off, you can see it's kind of orange. There's certain earplugs that have, it's an earplug and then it has this little orange thing in it. I can't find those earplugs anymore, but those type of earplugs, but I sure like those little things. This is an earplug.
Would you like us to save them for you if we run across them?
If you find those ones that have the little rod in them, they're great. It's
Do you
not
care if
this
they're
kind.
used?
Well, you know what? I only want the rod. I don't want the part that goes in the ear. I just
Okay.
want the little rod. So it's like these ones, but they have a little, it's like a little orange
Handle.
thing that goes in there. I don't know what it's for, but anyway, this must be, I don't know, maybe a pen lid or something. It's just, it's another nice circle that I've,
How are you attaching them on there, Karen?
well, this one is easy. This is just an old chopstick, I think, that I've used tape. I quite often will use hot glue. And sometimes I'll use 5-minute epoxy.
Depending on how permanent. it is.
Look, and I have these feathers, and this is an old handle for a pot. So I just shoved them in there. I haven't used it yet, but I expect it'll do something fun.
Mhm.
What else? Oh, okay, I have so many things. So when I come across things that are interesting shapes, this might have been on a roll of paper or something, I don't know. But I see that and I'm like, oh, I really like the shape, and I might be able to stamp it, but I can also spray paint over it, right? So then I've got this really cool sort of thing on my painting. So this is just a piece of styrofoam with string on it. And that works quite well.
Mhm.
I haven't used this one yet, but I have this big piece of PVC pipe. And then this gasket is on here. And this is for, you know, when you're replacing the screen in your screen door, you have to put this rubber thing in there. That's what this is. I love going to Home Depot. You find all sorts of cool things there. So anyway, I do like sponges, and I got this one directly from Bruce Head, where you just take one of these sponges and you just cut it, and you can make all sorts of really cool patterns with them. And so I have lots of those and lots of those.
Is that a tiling sponge? It looks like it could be a tiling sponge because it's quite,
One job inside a cushion.
It could be, but these ones are actually, I think the tiling sponges are a little bit more, have a lot more little holes in them. This is more like a sponge that you
They're
would,
more like
oh,
this.
this is a tiling sponge. Thank you. I do have one of those too. So
okay.
there's a tiling sponge. This is like more like
Right.
what you would put in a cushion. You can
Got
also,
it.
you can also use sea sponges too, but I don't use those very often because they're,
Expensive.
it's, well, and it's kind of like bubble wrap, right? Everybody does bubble wrap. That's why I don't do bubble wrap. Yeah. So anyway, you can do all sorts of different things with different sponges. Bill keeps handing me stuff. The other stuff that I like is, and I don't know what you call this stuff. It's kind of like a sponge, but it's really, really dense.
It's usually an anti-static packaging for electronics.
Yeah. Quite often when you're getting electronics, it comes with that. It's also you can get it like, I did some work with a company that does set building, and they had this stuff, and it's really fun to carve. And then I can make stamps out of that. Here's one of my
You have
first,
more-
You
you
just
have more
carve-
of that stuff?
can I carve that stuff?
You just carve it with an X-Acto knife or something,
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
utility knife?
Yeah, this stuff carves up really nice.
Should be.
Yeah, it's cool.
Bend it again.
See, and it's quite bendable, this one. You can also carve these. It's not as easy. This is a piece of insulation. You know, they have that foam insulation now.
Pink insulation.
It's like blue insulation foam.
Okay.
Okay. So here's one that I did. Now I cheated because I'm not so good at carving. This is one of Bruce's. I stole a bunch of his tools from his studio when he,
Don't tell his daughter.
don't tell Tara.
Bequeath.
She didn't hear that.
She didn't hear that. Anyway, I look at this one that Bruce did and he's carved this. And, you know, if you're going to be carving this stuff, you have to use a really, really, really sharp knife and stuff like that. So I can see that he's carved it. I cheated and I put on my respirator and I used my soldering pen.
Oh, clever.
Yeah. It's
That's
probably
neat.
not very environmentally friendly, but I
Pretty
figured I'm the only person in the world who's doing that. So it's okay.
You're doing it to yourself.
I'm wearing a respirator. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
so my first
So-
tool that I ever made is this one. And it's the top of a handle, of a broom handle or whatever. And then I just put this piece of foam on there and it is so thick with paint. But it's my big smushy dash thing. I
Great
just
one.
love it. This must have been some packaging. It's just that really dense styrofoam, but I kind of like that rectangle, so I grabbed it. This is the bottom of a computer stand, of a monitor stand.
Cool.
I was like, oh, I like that pattern. So I glued it to a piece of, this is Coroplast. I use it a lot. It's like that corrugated plastic. And I even made a little handle.
Mhm.
So I think I might have shown you guys these before. I had some window cleaner things. This is like a binder holder, and then I can put my little window squeegee in there. So I made my own little squeegee. Yeah. And this is a piece of plastic. I can put my paint down and scrape a nice long line with my plastic that's in between two pieces of wood. This is Coroplast with a whole bunch of toothpicks.
Nice.
And then I've glued them in with
Bad
hot,
glue.
with
Glue.
really bad glue, with hot glue as one of them falls out. Anyway,
Gorilla Glue is also really good.
yeah, Gorilla
Yeah,
Glue
but-
is good, but it does expand. So you just have to watch what you're doing.
Yeah.
What you're using it on. This is just a block, but it has like, it must be like the texture from the bottom of some sort of like maybe even a fruit tray or something like that. And I think the glue that I used, the hot glue, melted some of it. So there's a few little spots there that don't have a pattern, which is okay with me. This is another block, and what is on it? What was this
That's
stuff?
chip wrapper.
Yeah, it might be like chip wrapper. So I used to hang out with these ladies and we would do, they were fabric artists, and we would do the weirdest things. And one day we spent the day melting chip bags, and the chip bags do really interesting things. And so anyway, I made a stamp out of the weird melty stuff. Yeah, I thought, you know, carving with a pen was was toxic. Melting chip bags is not great for the environment, I'm sure, but it was really cool what they did.
What were you using to melt the chip bags, out of curiosity?
Parchment paper and an iron. Hot
Oh.
iron. Yeah,
Okay.
they do weird things. This is an old mop. I don't know what kind of mop it is. Is it a
Yeah,
bee?
that's a great one.
But it makes a really nice, you know, it's so impregnated with with paint at this point, but I'm sure that if I put it in water, it would soften up a little bit, but I could still use it to create, you know, these cool little lines or whatever.
Yeah.
So you get these at, sorry. I have all these stamps that we used to say things on them, and then I just use them as handles for other things that I find. So I found some really cool textured rubber. So I just cut the rubber and put it on the bottom of this stamp handle that used to say Acme stamp, my address or something on it. I have a whole bunch of those because I always think, oh, it'd be a shame to throw out those handles. So I just keep finding things to put on them, and then I have a selection of these. Anything works. This was like a little kid's foam ball. I cut it in half and then I made it into a stamp and put a handle on it. This is one of Bruce's tools. Well, it wasn't his, but he used this a lot in his work. And I can always walk up to one of his paintings and go, oh, there's a fork. There's a fork. Because I know his fork. And you know what's funny about this is that, you know, he told me that he was using a fork, and he said, you have to get the right forks. And so I did experiment and I found the right forks. They have to have a little bit of a bend in them. But it's really interesting because the way he made his fork marks are not the way my fork marks come out. So even though I'm using the exact same tool that he would use,
Yeah.
just the way my hand uses it is different than the way his hand used it. So I just think that's really fascinating. That
You draw through the paint or what? Or what?
the paint. Yeah. So you would dip it in the paint and then just make little fork marks. But his fork marks are different than mine. It's really bizarre to me. So, all right. This is one of my favorite tools. It's a coconut. And I put a handle on it.
Let's see the underside of it. Oh. Circles.
Yeah. It's a coconut cut in half. I think it came ice cream or something was in it or something. Anyway, I have two of them. Anyway, my coconuts with the handles. Makes me laugh. And of course, pool noodles work great. You can carve into them and make lots of different patterns. And this is sort of how I use them, is just with a circle, not like Bruce used to use them. One of my first tools I ever used was a credit card. And using a credit card, just putting the paint down and sliding it across your paper, you get really nice sort of blending of the paints and stuff like that. So whenever I see like old like cabinet handles and stuff like that, I try and keep them because they can become a tool. So this is a little cross from doing tile. With one of the tools, I use it quite a bit.
I have this. Remember, if there's mine.
Oh yeah, Jody's got one too. See, everybody's got to get. You see, you get great stuff at Home Depot.
All the cool kids have them.
Yeah. Then I found these little styrofoam little circles, which I love using, and you can see this one's really full of paint. But on the other side, I have another one of those things too. So this is a multi-tool. And then even a cork. This is a cork from a bottle, can become a stamp. I just put something on there because I like them to be handles. I mean, even something as simple as this is a paint lid, but it makes a nice circle. So it's now part of my tools. I found these at the Dollarama. They look like little marshmallows, but they make nice dots. So I use those quite often. And you can carve them too. And make
What are
patterns.
they made out of? What are those things made out of, Karen?
They're like a little foam. They look like a marshmallow, but yeah, they're foam, like a white foam.
Okay.
But they're nice. Dollarama has those. And then of course, anytime I get like a little tube or something like that, I use these all the time to make circles. And I got to show you, I have lots of these.
What?
Brenda saved these for me. and they make nice circles. And I can make this circle, or I can make this circle.
Skipping rope handle?
Huh? It's
That's-
a bobbin for a serger thread.
Oh.
No, it's not the bobbin, it's the thread.
Oh, it's the thread. Sorry. It's the
Yeah.
thread for a serger.
Yeah, or a long
the
arm
spool.
probably, or
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Hmm.
But then I also get these ones from her. And these ones are cool because they all have different bottoms. Like this one's got a flat bottom, so it leaves me a nice round sort of flat circle. And then I can do this circle if I want. This one has just like an edge on it. But I have one that actually has two, so it leaves two little circles. It's just so neat. So sometimes I give these away in my classes because I have lots of them. And then the last tools that I've been making, I did make this.
That last black one would be good inside clay.
In clay, yeah, like you could do, yeah, if you're doing clay and stuff like that, oh yeah, these would be fun.
Mm.
You'll have to take some home.
I think
Then I have these. This is just I don't know, it was a tube of styrofoam and I just stuck a handle in it. So now it's a stand. And sometimes if I don't have handles, I improvise and I use old light bulbs. So this is just a piece of rubber that it's in a circle. These are stamps that I found that were being thrown away. So I used them and I made them into stamps on this. Although I'm not sure about the glue. So, well, they're doing okay. I glued these first on here with the hot glue and they didn't stick. So I just used 5-minute epoxy and it seems they're sticking now. And this is just a little plastic hoop or something. But yeah, so like I have a bin here. This is where I keep all my handles and stuff. Things that I think eventually will become a tool. So I have a whole bunch of like these little guys. These are legs from a piece of furniture. Like anything that I think, maybe eventually will become a tool, it kind of goes in here. Like, I don't know what that was for, but it's kind of neat. Eventually it'll become a tool. And then, yes, I have burned out light bulbs. And wooden spools that are just half spools, I guess, but they make nice handles. Oh, and I have lots of frying pan handles, lid handles, because they make nice handles. So I have a bin of handles. I have a bin of bits and pieces, and I just, I try and make things whenever I see something interesting. Oh, there was one other one I was going to show you. Oh, this guy. This one is one of my favorites. I found him in a parking lot. It's the bottom of somebody's cane. The little rubber. And I was like, oh well.
you lost my game.
So some poor old guys walking around
God.
with no rubber on his
Sliding.
cane.
Slipping all over.
I've got it. Who knew? So anyway, there's lots of
That's
things you
great.
can make tools of. So now you can, sort of look in your recycle bin and go,
Perspective.
yeah, different perspective. I use so many of these tools when I'm doing my work, and my old art teacher, he said to me, he says, Karen, you don't have to use all the tools in your inventory on one piece. And I'm like,
Prove you wrong.
no, it was more like, I don't think I could. I mean, I'm using lots of tools in each piece, but you have no idea how many tools I have in my, I have so
Yeah.
many.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, but okay, so that's the tool stuff that I wanted to show you guys. So now you're gonna have to make some really funky tools and show me. I got to tell you, last week when we were doing the stencils, Elizabeth went nuts and sent me. How many stencils did she make?
Half a dozen.
I don't know. The next day her hand was sore because she had been making so many stencils. She sent, they're beautiful. I'm going to have to copy some of them. So. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the pieces that you guys are working on. I'm going to show you some examples and stuff like that. So I'm just going to shove all this stuff out of the way. I've been working on a piece that I finally finished. I have an art show coming up in March. So finally, yay. So this is a piece I've been working on for quite a while now. And it's just, I just finished it up the other day. So you can see I used that spray, that little grid thing that I found the other day. I made a new tool. Oh, and I don't know what I did with it. I needed a new tool and I tried that out. I've got some of my tape. I think I showed you this piece of tape last week. I made it, I guess, when we were spray painting. So now I put it in this piece. There's some paper here. There is a stamp, but it's underneath. You can't see it anymore. You can only just see a little bit of the edge. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we added things to our pieces that we were working on the other day. And just think about when you're adding things, you want to put them on your piece, but you want them to become part of the piece. So that doesn't look like you just stuck it on top of a painting, right? So even like this blue here, this is a piece of paper that I put in there, but I've painted over it and I've sort of blended it in a little bit. Nobody, unless I pointed out to them, would even know that that was a piece of paper. And even like the tape that I put in, I've put it in there, but then I painted over this part of it. It looks like it's supposed to be part of the painting. I have some tea bag over here. You can hardly even see it. It's like putting those pieces in, but then making them become part of that painting by doing more layers over top of it and to bring it in. Okay. I'm going to show you these other pieces that we were working on. That one. So for example, this one here, you can see I have this sort of shamrock paper under here, but I've painted over it because you can see it just sorted through the paint. These circles are all additional pieces that I put on. And then I've got some paper towel here that is on here also. So it's going over top of each of the pieces and they're sort of blending. I've got paint going over top of them, just so that now they're not just something sitting on top of my painting. They're in the painting. They're part of the painting. Okay. Even this one, these are kind of sitting out on their own, but I've actually just done a little bit of, you can see those sort of X's on there. Those X's are also on this part here because I spray painted over them. So they're still, even though they look like they're on top of the piece, they're still blending with the piece. Do you see what I mean? This piece is sitting on top, same with this little metal piece, but it all looks like it's supposed to be there and it's not like I just stuck it on. Okay. Okay, this one here. This one again, I've got some fabric here. So the fabric's underneath. I've got paper, this paper circle here, but I've painted over the part of that paper circle. The only thing that's really on top of everything that has no paint on it is this silver piece here and that weird little goofy thing I found one day and just stuck on there. But other than that, everything else is sort of incorporated into the painting by doing those layers. Okay. So when you're adding pieces to your work, think about that and how can you sort of apply it so that it's not like you're just doing a collage on top of a painting. We talked a little bit about focal point, right? And I try and keep my focal point somewhere in this middle part of my piece. If I put my focal point too far down, then everybody's going to be looking at the edge of my painting and going on to the next person's painting and buying theirs instead of mine. So you want to keep your focal point in one spot. So think of your focal point as if you have something that you're going to put on there and you want that to be, you want it to be the most important thing that you look at. Okay. It's like your lead actor. is your focal point. Okay. So the most important things are there. Okay. And so like Spencer, you had a focal point, but it seemed to be quite low on your page. And then you had a whole bunch of papers pointing to that, which is fine. If you had a whole bunch of things and you're pointing to your focal point, that's okay. But then you better make sure your focal point's somewhere on your piece. Because if I made my focal point down here and then I point to it, your eye goes down here, even though, do you understand what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay. So think about your focus. I have this goofy little thing I was doing here. And I started working on these years ago, trying to just sort of do a lesson for each of these types of things, focus and stuff like that. I'll try and finish them up, and I'll have some of these available for you guys to look at and read. But think about this. I mean, I just did this quick little sketch here, but you can see the focus can come by way of the shape or the size. In this instance, I've done the size, right? They're all flowers, but this one's bigger and it's got more detail, and it's placed, in a good spot for a focal point. Okay. So think about those kind of things as you're doing your compositions. Okay. And you can sit there and you can think about, in your sketchbook, if you wanted to, do a whole bunch of like quick little sketches, you can sort of, I don't know if I have any in this sketchbook. I mean, you could do little sketches and, try and figure out where is my focal point, and just play with different ways of looking at composition, and, like drawing sort of a rectangle and then just drawing into it is a really great way to sort of thumbnail a different composition or a way of looking at things. I think these are, I was probably working on a project. You're probably still working on that project, but I was probably trying to problem solve how I lay things out in a certain orientation. And so I'm playing with, shape and what looks really good, and where's my focal point, and thinking about those kind of things. So you can do those kind of exercises in your sketchbook to help you sort of determine. And you can do big drawings in your sketchbook and, say, where's my focal point? Well, this one is pretty center. This one's pretty low, but these are not finished drawings. They're just sketches, they're just, line drawings that I'm playing around with. Here's another bunch that I've done where you can see I'm creating sort of a lot of stuff going on here, and then it's kind of going off. I'm just playing with different sort of concepts of composition and where the lines go, and see what works. So that's really what a sketchbook is for. Trying to see if there's any more in here. No, just guitars. I painted a guitar again.
Nice.
So anyway, does that help you guys with your compositions at all?
Mhm.
Does anybody want to talk about what they've got going on?
I have a question about one of your techniques.
Sure.
In a number of your pieces, you have what I might refer to as lightning bolts or lightning strikes, which I don't think that's what they are, but that's an interesting effect. And I'm just curious how you get something like that.
That's part of the $299 course.
Did you
Okay.
hear that?
Yes, I did. That's fair.
So it is one of my signature things that I do is those lines, the white lines and the dots. Bill, could you go over and get my bottle, please?
Well, don't show me if it's a trade secret.
No,
I didn't realize it was a trade secret.
I've already given it up to people, so it doesn't really matter. There's only a couple of things that I won't show you, but I will show you this because I have started to show people it anyway. Because again, like Bruce is using that
Fork.
He uses that fork, right? And the way he uses the fork is different than how I use the fork. And it's the same thing with this this white line is, Bill, can you get me some, can you get me the lid over there that has all the stuff stuck in it over where the lamp is? There's all that, yeah, just bring that right over to me. So I've shown this technique to other people, and quite often they will, they'll try and copy it and they can't. So this is my pin cushion. It's a beautiful pottery lid, and I think my cats, somebody broke the pot. So now it's my lid for all my sticky things. Okay, so what I'm using to make my lines is this. Oh, it's a fine liner. So it's got a metal nib on it. Okay. And I don't treat them very nicely. I let them gum up all the time. And I think this one's gummed for me. Oh, I had another one. Is there another one over there, Bill? So what I have here, this is a really thin wire. It's like a guitar wire.
E-string.
Oh, Bill says it's an E-string. Okay, this one's good. They work really good at cleaning up my bottles because I don't clean them all the time. Okay, so this is what I'm using. It's this fine liner. This is what they sell them. This is what they look like now. They used to look like this. And this one doesn't want to work either. Oh my goodness. See, I can't even show you.
It's a secret.
It's a secret.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So I have a liquid paint in here. You'd think. Let me try again.
Is a fine liner just a vessel that you can put other things into it, or did it come with something in it to begin with?
If you go to Michael's, they sell them with glue in them, but I wouldn't bother buying those. I would just buy them. I buy them at like Kensington Art or something like that. You might
Oh,
have them
okay.
now. In fact, I don't
Then
know if they do.
Because it's pretty important, Karen, think from what you told me that the paint that's in that is really finely ground, right? It's not
It
just
is.
like
It's not the super flow paint. It's the just liquid paint. Okay. And you know, I've used just like thick paint and added water, and I'm okay with that. It just has to have the right consistency. So I've also got the right hand for doing this, because when I start doing it, so I'm squeezing as I go, and I can just set this on and I just do my lines.
and you're really practiced at it, so.
Hmm?
You've had a lot of practice.
Oh yeah, I do this all the time.
Fascinating.
Right.
On that first one that you showed us, that had you used spray paint over what I would think of as like a drain that gave that pattern. It almost, the effect that you had was one color was peeling away into other colors, and I thought that was very fascinating.
Hmm.
Was that the first one?
Yeah.
Not the very first one, the first one of the hard boards that you brought out.
This one?
No,
You know, it had the grill. It had a sort of a,
had the grill with kind of an orangish yellow translucent color on the lower that kind of faded over to red. I'm sorry to
This one.
monopolize this.
there we are. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
So
this is
the
not a
mo-
hardboard. This is a canvas.
I'm sorry, I was mistaken.
You know
That-
what? You know what's so funny about this canvas? It's Bruce's canvas.
Oh, cool.
So
I thought the effect of the way that kind of makes it feel like it's peeling away from the canvas with that glue line.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought that was fascinating.
it is really interesting, sort of the different effects you can get with things. So this canvas is actually a canvas that Bruce sewed together. So I'm going to show you the back. He's sewn it together. And boy, I feel like, Terry, you're going to think I took everything out of your dad's studio. It's like, It was
You
only
had
a
a
bag.
lot there.
Absolutely not.
It was only a bag full. I would have taken everything if I could have, right? I would have loved to have more, but anyway,
And
this
the
canvas
beat
has
goes
been here.
on, Sweetheart. Wow, that's so awesome.
So it's been here for a long time and I finally stretched it and I've been working on this piece for quite a while. So, but yeah, it's like you start to get that sort of, layers and layers, and it starts to have that sort of effect and people start to see different things happening in the pieces, right? So, I mean, when I'm doing my lines, and I use these bottles for my white lines, but I use other bottles also. I have some bigger, when I'm doing a big piece and I want bigger, thicker lines, I have a different tool that I use. And then of course, garden hose. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Did that once. Anyway. So again, the way I do this is not the way a lot of people do this. I'm very scribbly when I do my thing. And, then I can go back in and I can do, circles. But I know how this paint flows, and I show it to people, and some people just really have a hard time with it because it is very finicky.
Yeah.
But it works for me. Finicky is my middle name.
Yeah, it's an interesting technique. I would never have guessed.
Yeah. And I mean, that's how I sign my name on all the pieces too, because it's just so much easier than trying to use a brush to do it. So I need 2 lines. There we go.
Okay.
So this painting has a long way to go still. So normally I wouldn't even put the white on there yet. I got to get more stuff on there before the white goes on. But, you just sort of keep working on it until you think it's done. And I thought these were done. And I was like, okay, these are actually pretty good. I'm going to take them in and put them in a nice 12 by 12 frame, and they aren't 12 by 12. They're a little bit off. So they're dang it, custom framing.
Bummer.
I was like, I gotta shave off one side. They almost fit in a standard frame, but right. So any other questions? Anything else? No? So next week, we're gonna do a craft.
Okay, I've been collecting some of Felix's feathers. I was going to Mod Podge in.
Ooh, that's nice. That's nice.
Mm.
Yeah, that'll be fun to do. Not beautiful colors, right?
Yeah.
It'll be like a little bit of me in your paintings. So
I hope they're feathers that have fallen off.
Yeah, you don't pluck them.
No, oh gosh, no, I don't pluck them. No. Thank heavens I don't have a plucker. That's I think he's it's got to be an early molt or like a little bit of a molt, because he's had a whole bunch of little yellow feathers at the bottom of the cage.
Oh,
But you
lovely.
can see the little black dots of where it's like little black dots of like what would have been blood when the feather point came through his skin.
Okay.
And what's on the tip of the feather is like a cuticle, like your cuticle on your finger.
Yeah.
So there's a great amount of pressure on it when it comes through. So he wants to get the top of that cuticle off so that the pressure is released from the feather.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, so as he's picking away at them, you get little flakes of cuticle everywhere.
Oh, lovely.
But yeah, it's just little bits that you could see sometimes. Yeah, you really.
Yeah. You just don't know, and you might have, like, it might be a nice little sort of spattering of something interesting in your piece, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out how I could do it so that I don't wreck the fluff on some of them.
Yeah, because if you're going to use like Mod Podge or the gloss gel, it's going to flatten them right out.
It is going to flatten them.
Unless you have to, probably your best bet to do that if you want to attach it to your work, and and have it sort of dimensional so that it is fluffy or something, it's going to be the last thing that you put on. After, if you do a clear coat or anything on your piece at the end.
Okay.
So like this painting here, now with acrylic paintings, you don't necessarily have to clear coat them.
Mhm.
But I do because I'm using gloss gel to put things on. And if I didn't, I'd have matte areas and glossy areas. So I don't
Yeah.
like that. So I just do the whole thing. So if you're going to do that with your piece, you would have to do your final coat, and then you could attach those pieces on. And I would use something just, you could probably use a white glue or a tacky glue, just a little dot of that, and then the feather on top. And that's probably going to be your best way to do that.
Okay.
Now it's not archival because you're putting it on top, and it,
Yeah.
through time and stuff like that, things like that will disintegrate or change color or things like that. So because
Right.
you're leaving it to the elements of the air. If you had the feathers and they were underneath your clear coat, then they would be more preserved. They still might change color, but they would be locked in there and they wouldn't fall off or anything like that. But
I was trying to think of a dimensional way so it looked like they were kind of one falling or something over the other, so that they, you know what I mean? So that you could kind of get an idea of one in front of the other,
yeah.
in front of the back. I just thought maybe I can starch them and then put them on.
Well, I wonder if they would work with, they do that there's that stuff that they use for dried flowers. I don't know if it would work on feathers.
No, yeah, I know what you mean. No, I'm not sure, but good thought.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. Well, it'll be interesting to see what you do with those. So anyway, so next week we are going to do something a little bit crafty. So it's get those toilet paper rolls handy, and you're going to need Mod Podge. I'll get the whole list out for you guys. So you need wax paper, the toilet paper rolls. You're going to need sparkles or something, little embellishments. You can glitter or something like that, goofy stuff like that. Anyway, and maybe a ribbon. But I'll have a picture of what we're doing, and then you guys can, if you want to do it, it's kind of fun. It's just one of those goofy little craft things that I like to do. So, but we can play with that and see if it works. Okay. And I think that's about all I need to blather on for you guys today. Sorry I didn't have anything for you to paint, but I couldn't wait to show you all my tools.
No problem.
Fun.
Anyway. All right. So you guys have a good week. If you have any questions or you need me to have a look at your piece that you've been working on and give you some ideas, then I would be happy to do so. And that's about all I have for you today.
Okay, what are you holding up? What are you holding up, Leslie?
I made a bunch of stencils.
Oh, you made a whole bunch of stencils. Just a minute. Let's go on to it. I'm just getting Bill to put us on gallery view so that we can see what Leslie's got.
So I found some really lightweight cardboard, and I've had it for years, don't know why. So I made some stencils. As you can see, I've used them. Did some waves and hole punches, and then I did some sort of stripes. That's what they look like on the clean side. I tried a spiral.
I like it.
Oh, nice.
And then I was sort of doing as one thing, and I turned out I didn't like the top part, but I really liked the bottom part. So
I like it.
Sponging them on to some paper to see what they look like. And some of them are incorporated in my paintings. The one thing I can't figure out what I did with it, it's a plastic lid. Oh, there it is. It blends on my table really well. This was just, I kind of went a little cuckoo with hole punches, but this was like a yogurt lid.
Nice.
And I cut it into a spiral, and then I started punching into it. And I want to do another one where I pay more attention to where I'm putting my hole punches. It was harder to paint through. It was the first one I tried. And it was really pretty chicken. The paper worked really well, but for me, it's finite. And again, I've had these for, I have no idea how many years. And now I wish I had them all. because I'm down to like my last 15 or something where I would have had 100 of them, but they worked like a charm.
Awesome.
I really wasn't sure what they would do. I love this one.
I love
it.
that one too. That's great. Look at the circle, the curve you got on there. So nice.
Yeah. So you can barely see it, but it's,
Yeah.
it's in that. I've got some of the ribbing in here.
Yeah.
And I did another spiral over here. And then on one of the paintings that I really didn't like, I did some V's and more spirals. And then I was doing some of that ribbing stuff. Didn't love that, but yeah. It's fun. That rib stuff, I was able to kind of do one way and then flip again. And it made a big, long piece across it.
It looks
Anyway.
like ocean water.
Yeah, that's really great.
So yeah, I tried another lightweight cardboard and it was so hard to cut. It was just, you really have to have, if it's going to be paper, the thinnest thing that you can get that's rigid. And I lucked out with these. And then I did find too, I was doing little fussy stuff initially, and it was just too coarse. The edges were coarse. If I was aiming for coarse, that'd be great. But I would sort of cut with an X-Acto knife, and I could get in there with my scissors if I wanted to clean it up a little bit. So it made for quite crisp stencils. Anyway, it was lots of fun. I had a hard time going to bed that night because I was cutting things out. And I was like, okay, I better use these. So yeah.
That's great. I'm so pleased. That's so much fun. That's great. All right. Well, I love to see that when you guys are so excited about some of this stuff. So I can hardly wait to see what tools you make next week. I want to see all your weird tools.
I love the idea of the tube with string on it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. I should show, this is left over from the art room when I taught them a note. Speaking of cardboard tube, we did some with hot glue.
Nice.
Just did a decoration. Now it wouldn't last forever. You can see some pieces starting to come off a bit, but that's another way of using, a cardboard tube and getting, that.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Yeah, there's a whole, there was a whole thing that you could make stencils and stuff with hot glue and stuff like that. I did try it a little bit, but my hot glue gun is really small. So I'd be like, squeeze, and it would make this little thin line and I'd be like, oh, and then I'm trying to get it to go again. Like you really need one of those big hot glue guns with the big things, because I was like, and it's like, it was just, I made a whole bunch of stencils, but they were kind of like,
well, and some of these, like, they stick up more than others, so it's not the most even thing. But anyway.
Yeah.
Which would be great. Which would be great in clay. It might be a little more problematic on paper.
Yeah.
It looks like worms.
Yeah.
Wormy pots.
What did you affix your? I'm really stuck on these the chip bag melty thing. What did you mount that to? Because I am so wanting to try that.
This one I'm thinking, is this a chip bag? I'm trying to, the one that I did, this might not be a chip bag. This might be, I'm thinking it's, how when you would go to Costco and you would get flowers and they came in that, they have this sort of plasticky thing around them. I think that's what this is. The chip bags.
So it's sort of a Mylar.
Kind of. I don't know. Let me do that thing. Where is that thing? Let me just look for a second and see if I can find out all this other stuff I have.
I wonder what a blow dryer would do.
A blow dryer?
Yeah.
Well, it might not be flat then.
It might not be hot enough.
Or a heat gun. A heat gun probably would do
A heat gun. Right.
But then again, it won't be flat. it would just,
Okay.
like, curl up on itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Hence
found the
the-
iron with the like
Hence
hot
the
iron
parchment paper. Okay.
with parchment paper. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just digging here.
So Karen, another one that we did when in the art room, and this was, I had the kids just, was we had a piece of board and then again over hot glue. And then I had them take tin foil and we did a spray
Ooh.
glue over the glue that was now dried. So the glue is the relief.
Oh,
Spray it with some contact or some kind that's going to glue that heavy duty tin foil over, and then press it down in around the lines of glue. And then I actually had the kids there making pieces that was the piece, and they also had them do a negative of it. So they had to print that, but then they also had to work on the original. And then you had that sort of gleam of the tin foil, and I would get them to paint on that and sort of, so you can make it a two-way of that.
Yeah.
But another.
You could. So this is sour cream and onion chips. It's this way.
Was ever cool?
whoa.
Whoa. That's way better than bubble wrap.
That is really cool.
Isn't that cool? And so this is probably one of those things from Costco.
Uh-huh.
Ah, that is so cool.
So Karen, you would use that piece in your, right on the painting yourself. You're not using it as a stamp or anything. Or is it-
Well, I was using this as a stamp. So this is that stuff from Costco that it's sort of shiny on one side and not shiny on the other side.
Wow, is that ever cool?
Right?
It's like pebbles. I
I
love
mean,
it.
I could use them in a painting. I just haven't quite figured out. I have never used them in a painting because my paintings they don't tend to be very textural,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I put this in and then I struggle with it because it's like, now I just stuck something on my painting and how do I incorporate and make it look like it's part of the painting, right? And that's where I struggle because I like some of these little things that are going on, these little strings and stuff that are in there.
Yeah.
But how do I
Will it blend?
make it blend with my painting?
What if you cut it apart a little bit and used it in multiple places
Well-
so it wasn't?
Oh.
Wow, is that ever cool?
So this
With
is
the light
Tyvek.
comes through,
This is-
Karen.
This is Tyvek. So you go to a construction site and grab their little bits that they're lying around on the ground of Tyvek. And that's what they do. Brenda loves going dumpster diving in the new areas. She's like, we're like, go check out that dumpster. She sits in the car while I go looking in the dumpsters. I'll check that one too.
I'm the navigator, but it was fun.
It was fun. So yeah, but they're really cool. I just haven't quite figured out what to do with them yet. So
They're amazing.
yeah, so
It
yeah.
looked like something that would have been in Bruce Head's studio, don't you think, Tara? In your deck? That's good.
Yeah,
Totally.
during the bumpy period.
Yeah,
Ruffles.
that's right.
I know.
Period.
I-
Karen,
I
you
wish I-
really,
You
really
when I
have
do
to
things
have
like
a
this,
gas respirator. Gosh.
this is
I'd be
when
so
I wish
tired.
that I could call Bruce and go, "Hey, Bruce, you got to try this."
Oh, I know, eh?
Right? Ruffles.
Fun.
What I say, chip containers.
I know. I have a whole box of this stuff, and I've never done anything with it because I don't know what to do with it.
That's awesome.
Maybe we'll do that one night. We'll sit here and we'll iron stuff, and we can play and see. You'll have to save all your chip bags. And I'll be like, yeah. The problem when I do things like this
Yeah.
is I don't have a final project for you. It's like, we can do this. I could do this till the cows come home, but figuring out what to do with it afterwards is a bit of a problem for me. So
It'd
anyway.
be kind of a whole mobile, cut it into sections and
Oh, yeah. There's so many.
try to
there's lots
balance
of
it.
things. Yeah.
It would
So,
be
yeah.
a great river and a multimedia piece, or a mixed media piece, sort of
Yeah.
the texture going up and down depending on the different materials you use.
Yeah.
I mean, this could be rocks in a river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Just
Oh, yeah.
attach them and then just paint over 'em. I don't know.
Now
Gosh,
we
then
got
I paint it would look like something.
Your mission.
your mission. If you choose to accept it. Oh, I'm gonna
Do
wake
something
up.
with
Equal
these.
bumpy period.
Do a bumpy.
Bumpy period.
This is my bumpy period.
Yeah, the Beco bumpy period.
Yeah, so this is the closest I
bumpy.
got to doing anything with any of this was, okay, I'll make a stamp out of it. So, yeah. But yeah, some of them I love them so much, and it's like I don't want to do anything with them because I kind of like them the way they are.
Yeah, because if you apply any pressure to them, it just flattens out. You lose some of that lovely.
Well, they're not going to flatten. They're just
No?
they're rigid. Like they're
Wow.
like this. So, maybe I should just frame that and sell that as art.
If your paint is heavy enough, you could use it as a stamp within it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is your head
We
hurt
all put
now?
our king caps over the and think
Yeah.
about.
Everybody think about what we're
Karen
going to
do
do.
with their chip bags.
Okay.
What do I do with all my chip
Or
bags?
what can we do with chip bags?
Yeah.
Full bags here.
Send the full bags here. Bill will empty them.
And it's making me want to go and eat some chips now.
I know. I want to eat some chips too.
Me too.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
Just trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are, I don't know. They're just interesting little things.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Like that white one that you had, Karen, that looked really cool with the light coming through it. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if that can incorporate into like some of the, you got coming up?
A which?
Like the project that you have for next week. I'm just wondering.
Oh.
See how the light comes through? It's really cool. When you put it to the screen for us, we could see the light coming through it. No, the
Yeah.
other way. The other way. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very cool. It's like looking up, I don't know. It's looking up through ice or something, or
Mhm.
Or frosted glass.
clouds. Yeah, sometimes look like that.
Yeah.
Bubbles.
Huh. That's interesting. Oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Yeah, yeah. I still don't know. Great challenge. Just all I needed.
Something else to do.
Something else to do. Yeah. So yeah, I have a whole bin of this stuff. But anyway, all right, you guys. I'm gonna let you go.
All
Before you
right.
give me more challenges.
Later.
Okie doke. Has
All
been
right.
a slice.
Okay, I will
Thanks,
talk
Karen.
to you guys next week. We'll have some fun.
All right.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, Spencer.
Bye, Spence. Bye, Kelly.
Yeah.